Joining us now live in studio, Trump campaign senior advisor Jason Miller. Is the president going to be able to go to North Carolina as well, Jason, you think?
Hopefully. We've seen the wreckage and the chaos in western North Carolina. It is bad. Friends are sending me pictures. You see entire interstates that are wiped out. Entire towns are destroyed. People who have died in this. And so we obviously need to make sure that it's safe. But President Trump does want to visit North Carolina and try to help the people as soon as possible.
You know, some people might claim that, by President Trump going to Georgia, when you have these disaster areas, they might go, oh, you're just getting in the way, right? But then you don't show up as a Republican and they blame you for not showing up. You can't win either way. But I have to imagine this gives a lot of support, moral support to the people on the ground when the former president, who many of them love, comes and speaks to them and brings attention to the area.
Well, and the other thing, too, is that someone has to go and light a fire under Joe Biden and Kamala
Yes.
Harris. I mean, sorry to pivot right to the political aspect so quickly, but they're slow on the draw. We saw it with East Palestine. We saw it with Maui. They are slow to reactiveness. The other thing that President Trump can help do is to raise money and raise awareness to just how much damage is being done. A lot of people around the country, they're seeing the little clips and highlights on the news, but when you see it up close in Georgia, North Carolina, it is really bad.
What was the first words out of her mouth, Kamala Harris's mouth, about the devastation up, say, in the mountains of North Carolina was last night when she was at a fundraiser. There were people being rescued off a roof of a hospital by the National Guard in Tennessee and the Virginia State Police on Friday. This was going on all weekend. And Jason, we played a piece of sound from Joe Biden saying, the roads are washed out. We can't get supplies into Western North Carolina. And I just want to point out, there's a group of volunteers bringing in donations at the Statesville Airport in North Carolina. And just yesterday, they flew in 43 flights in little Cessnas, more than 8 tons of supplies and aid to folks up there. And that is just one group. That is just disgusting behavior by the leader of this nation and the woman who wants to run it.
Well, the other thing, too, is let's take a look at where Kamala Harris was. She was in San Francisco at a wine and cheese party with all of her rich liberal donors. And this was after having gone to the border, the actual border, for the first time ever on Friday. And then, again, everyone saw what was happening. Everyone knew exactly what was going on. To be that tone deaf when you have people who are not just suffering but dying, say, you know what, rather than go and help people or to go and show some solidarity, make sure that people are in position to help, I'm going to go to San Francisco to raise money with a bunch of the liberal elites. That shows you just how completely terrible of a leader. You shouldn't even be able to put leader in the same sentence with Kamala Harris.
Well, she knew a Cat 4 storm is hitting the coast of Florida. And instead of going, you know what, I want to project to the American people that I am a leader. I'm going to take charge because we all know that Joe Biden can't do anything. I'm going to show you all that I have the chops to deal with this kind of a crisis. You're right. No, she just gets on a plane and flies to San Francisco. But I want to ask you about something else because allegedly when Tim Walz sat down and did the pre-interview to be the vice presidential candidate with Kamala Harris, he told her up front, listen, I'm not a very good debater. And now all this news is trickling out about Tim Walz is really nervous about tomorrow night's debate. What say you, Jason?
There is zero nervousness on Tim Walz's behalf, I'll tell you. Although the weird thing is I don't understand how they try to lower expectations for Tim Walz by saying that he's some kind of beta chewing his fingernails, being worried about the monster outside known as a debate. Look, I'll tell you this. We're used to seeing Tim Walz as the wildly gesticulating, effeminate, flapping his arms around on the stage and pointing at Kamala Harris. He's good in debates. He will show up. He will be polished. He'll be very buttoned up. Here's the challenge for him, though. He has 3 problems in front of him. One, he has to defend his own record, which a lot of people don't know about, some crazy stuff from Washington and Minnesota. Even today, he had to come out and say, actually, I've only been to Beijing or to China 15 times, not 30 times. That's a whole thing to unpack there. So just be ready for that tomorrow. Then he has to defend Kamala Harris's record, going all the way back to DA, AG, Senator, and running for and as vice president, the chaos that she's caused. He also has to defend Joe Biden's record because ultimately this is the party that Joe Biden, the Democrats, they're the ones who are running the White House. So Tim Walz has a very big hill that he has to climb. But guys, he's good. I hate to say it because he's such a weirdo. He's very good. You will not even recognize him on that stage tomorrow.
What is he most vulnerable on? Is it his personally? Is it his record in Minnesota? Because I've referred to some of the policies in Minnesota as big tent eugenics in terms of, abortion up until the moment of birth, what he's done to roll back protections for children in the state.
Well, ultimately, the facts are Tim Walz's kryptonite. And this is where I think J.D. Vance is really going to take advantage of him, because there is no way that Tim Walz can defend his record. Even put aside nationally, you look at inflation in Minnesota, you look at crime in Minnesota, you look what happened with the riots, you see all the really weird stuff that he's pushed for him, and we know what his nickname is. I won't say it, Dagan, because it's on your show.
Dagan's already said it.
Already said it.
Already said it. Okay, so I'll just say Tiananmen Tim, as opposed to the other one. So you know what I'm talking about. It's a family show at this hour. But not only does he have that he has to worry about, but when he gets up there, how does he look in the eyes of the American voters and explain with a straight face why Kamala Harris allowed 20 million illegals into the country? How does he look the American people in the eye, say, here's why twice she voted to create record-setting inflation with these massive spending bills? The truth and the facts are what's going to trip up Tim Walz.
He won't say any of that. He's going to lie. They just lie, and the media never calls him out. Real quick, will this move the needle at all, this debate tomorrow night?
I think you're going to be very impressed by J.D. Vance. He's someone who his bio, both growing up in humble beginnings, serving in the military, he is also so smart. He is so good, and he really cares about the American worker. I think it will move the needle, because we'll be able to call out Tim Walz, and you're going to see he will have no answers. He'll say stuff, but they're not actually going to be facts or anything to move forward. You can't turn the page when the book is about you, Kamala.
Oh, well said. Jason Miller. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us in person.
Thank you.